or not? Okay, perfect. Okay, cool. It's a lot of you. So you might do things a little bit different than the way that I typically handle this. I'm going to show you kind of how I build my customer personas and why we do it this way. Tomorrow we're sorry. The build, yes. So the build is everything's going to be completely available once we can. As we go along, all the templates are going to be available, and all of this is in the Notion document. Which, if you guys don't have the link, let me share that with you guys right now. Everything that we're going to be going over today and any other workshops. Let me share that link here. The prompts that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today are going to be there, and then this sample here is also there. And that's in the document that I just pasted there. So if you click on that, up really quick. If you click on that, here's the one that we're doing today. So here's kind of what we're going to be breaking down, and then here's the prompts that are going to be included, and then the template and any other resources. But you can always go back here, and all of the workshops will be here. Any templates will be here. Pretty much all that stuff will be there. So yeah, that's going to be kind of like the resource hub there. Cool. Any questions, concerns on that? Awesome. I'm kind of curious if anyone could like unmute themselves, and just kind of curious how you guys, how if anyone has any, or just trying to get an idea of how you guys do your current personas. Is this, you know, kind of typically how you guys do them, like from like what you can see on my screen? Like I said, I'm going to be sharing this entire template, which is pretty extensive. We don't have to go this extensive for sure. But I'm just kind of curious how you guys are handling this now. Where's my screen?
Hey, Alex.
Yeah.
So to generally, when we build our personas, we try to keep it as simple as possible. Understanding and possibly flawed understanding that the shortest system prompt produces the least amount of latency. So we generally just say something like, you are a helpful medical receptionist and you are in charge of taking, you know, appointments and booking them into the calendar, or something along those lines. We don't really go very deep beyond that, and that's kind of why I'm here.
Okay, perfect. So I'm glad, and right now we are going to be starting with the very simple one, just to keep things going forward here. But this template here that I'm sharing with you guys, I do suggest that you check it out, because as we build this, you're going to see that there's a lot of case scenarios that we don't initially think of at first. And the goal here is to build production-ready, human-centric agents, right? Because it's not just about putting something together and a prompt. We also want it to sound human and to be pleasant, and for the user to like the experience. So if you take a look on here on this template, and again, we're going to be building this, you can see that I'm taking a lot of things into account. Some of those might be like the potential questions, right, that the person can ask. You know, sometimes they ask all sorts of things. I recently heard one where like the customer's like, well, can we pray before you make my appointment? Like that's, you know, like out of the blue. Also things with like error handling or contextual things, right? Like sometimes you might have a caller that's angry, or they might be a little confused, or they don't know who you're calling, or sometimes you deal with elderly patients, right? So, you know, in a medical practice, depending on what the medical practice is going to be, you often deal with elderly people, and you know, they can be a little bit different to deal with. So having a deep understanding of this, it's really going to help us design better experiences. Same thing with error handling. Error handling is crucial, and we're going to be discussing again all of these things. You're going to see how they're going to play a role, and we're going to be taking this persona. Right now, we're going to be starting with a simpler version, which I'll show you here. We're going to be building out Mia. So Mia is going to be our dental receptionist, and we're going to go through some of these things, how I would do it. And again, this is going to be a simplified version. But again, if you take a look at this template, this is kind of the you know, you can go in more depth into it. And I definitely suggest that you do, just because there's a lot of stuff that can happen with the conversations. So again, here, this is going to be our sample for Mia. And I'll also share this. This is Mila. No, you guys don't have to use this. This can literally be like a Google document. You can use, yeah, so the templates, yeah, this one is on Figma. You can use anything really. It's whatever you like. I think it's more about just like having an idea of the different components and the different things that we want there. So you can use anything. But for this case, and you'll notice too, I do include images when I build my templates. One of the reasons I like to kind of put a face on it, and let me go back to this one really quick here. You might not need to go into like so much depth into this for sure. Obviously, I use ChatGPT to help me come up with this. It's not like I was sitting there writing everything. You don't necessarily have to go into depth, but I like to, give it put a face to it. It's also helpful if you're like an agency or you're maybe doing this for someone else or a client, to kind of give it a face and a persona. That way there's something that they could see and they could visualize. I think it's it's a great way to communicate with stakeholders this way. So hopefully that makes sense there. Are we all good so far? Just check the notes here. Cool. Awesome, guys. So I always like to start with the types of conversations we're going to have. Here, I have some very basic generic information. Obviously, she's going to be a female. If she's going to, if this particular case, she's only going to speak English, but you might have other cases where she might talk Italian or a different language. This is going to be for a dental receptionist here in LA. So it's going to be in Santa Monica. And then the department that she's going to be deployed for is going to be in the front desk receptionist. Now, everything starts with the types of conversations that we're going to have. Obviously, depending on the agent you're going to be building, that can be different for you. But for a dental receptionist, there's all sorts of things that can happen, right? So obviously, we need appointment scheduling is going to be the obvious. Appointment scheduling is going to be a very obvious one. But we might have other things like insurance, right? So patients can call and they could want to verify their insurance. We can have, let's see, so it's going to be like insurance and billing. What other use cases, conversations can happen here? Prescriptions, right? So patients can call about their prescriptions. And
Alex, cancel and reschedule. I don't know if you want to add it into
scheduling. I consider that. So maybe we would do like appointment scheduling and managing. And so we might have something like managing. So you could process payments there. By the way, this is my handsome, the most gorgeous cat named Cheeto. FYI, right there. So we might have like prescriptions, insurance billing. That could also be something, right? That maybe they are taking payments there. That could be one. And I'm going to use this first prompt here that I shared with you guys from Notion. So let me just pull that up really quick. That way, again, I like to think of it like a lot of different things. So I'm going to use Claude to help me come up with some of these ideas. And all I'm going to do is you can change this prompt to however you like. Oof, I don't like the way that formatted.
Alex, another use case could be first-time patient. They just literally just made their first dial to that studio or medical practice.
Yeah, and we are going to discuss them. So that's actually going to be in our audience portion, because you're absolutely right. We can hear the main things that we're going to be covering is operations. So the types of conversations, the tasks that we're going to do, right? So what do we require the agent to do? That might be like sending an email, transfer the call, obviously book appointments. Where are we going to deploy these? At first, this can just be a simple inbound agent, but you might also later on deploy this like in SMS or email. So again, we'll go through the tech stack, the requirements, and that's, again, the audience, like who we're going to talk to. So first-time patients, you can have other doctors. So this is what we'll be covering right now, but we'll first start here. And let me just quickly paste this prompt just to kind of get an idea of more conversations. Again, I think this is very helpful, especially if you're doing this for other people. So in my prompt, all I want, you can change this. So maybe you have a different agent, like maybe it's a customer service. You can go ahead and change that. And I actually did mark that in the, oops, that's not to do. And I did mark that in the Notion document. If you take a look at that, anything that you can swap out, geez, where's my Notion? God damn it. Sorry, I have so many screens here.
Alex, I got the link in the chat too if you want. Oh, there you go.
Right here. Anything that I highlight like in orange in the prompts, just so you guys know, you can go ahead and swap out. So in this prompt, you can just put like a customer service agent for whatever business that is, yours or your clients, whatever that may be. And the same thing down here, all you really got to change is this dental practice. So just wanted to make you guys aware of that. There. Perfect. So I'm going to do is just literally paste this prompt in there and submit it. And then this would just give me some more ideas on conversation cases there. Perfect. So like Luigi was saying there, the new patient inquiries, right? So scheduling appointments, right? So appointment scheduling and managing, insurance and billing. So this one, often one, actually, I didn't think about this before. I'm not sure how many of you guys think about it. The pre-appointment, I recently found out that it's pretty common, especially elderly patients, that they're gonna call and they're gonna be like, hey, I have an appointment coming up. Can you remind me of my appointment? When is my appointment? How do I get there? Where exactly are you? So this is very common. And again, things that I often overlook.
What about any pre-appointment? All right, this is probably going to be a little bit nuanced, but like pre-appointment requirements that differ based on the appointment, right? So whether it's your first appointment or you're going in for a procedure or you're going in for a cleaning, right? Like there are 3 different repositories that you would need to source from as far as what that protocol would be.
Exactly, right? Because you could just have like, I'm just gonna, for the sake of this, like a regular appointment, right? Like some sort of checkup and stuff like that. But if you do have, maybe you're gonna get a surgical procedure, that's gonna require something else. So people will call for that and ask for those pre-appointment instructions. Another one is actually after the surgery, so post-appointment, right? So you got a surgical treatment, they're gonna call you with common questions like, you know, is it okay for me to eat this? Or is it okay for me to wear that? Or things like that. So those are very, very common. And by the way, a lot of this, we analyze the calls, like about 1,000 calls from medical practice. And we found that you'll be surprised how many people call about this. So it's very common. Let's see what other cases we got, because I guarantee you there's much. So emergency situations is going to be another one, right? Patient calls, hey, my tooth is broken, like I'm bleeding, or I was skating and like my tooth is busted. That's going to be another one. So like we need to be mindful of how we're going to be handling that. Obviously the compliance and special accommodations. Sure. I haven't seen too many of these. I don't know about that one. I would still lump this in probably like insurance and billing there. Portal and assistance, referral management. So this is going to be another one that we want to be mindful, and we're going to be handle this in this build as well. So you're often going to get other providers, whether that provider is, they can be just like another doctor. It could be like a surgical center that's going to be sending you something. It could also be an attorney. So maybe they got in an accident and then that office is calling you to refer you that patient. So that's going to be something. Emergency, right? So we did discuss the emergency case there. So Elvis, regarding the hallucinations, this is part of the reason that we're breaking this down. All these things that I'm showing you, we're going to handle through this build, right? So some of these things we're going to transfer, we're going to do, and that's what we're using a conversational flow. Because a conversational flow, and if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, that is not it. This right here. So if you guys haven't seen it or play around with this is what I mean, right? So you have all your use cases and it allows you to break it down bit by bit. So what we're doing here is we're breaking everything down beforehand so that when we dive into the conversational flow, we can easily make those, it'll be easier for us to make. So we will be breaking all of that down, which will prevent hallucinations. So hopefully that makes sense there. Cool. Awesome. So and then we got emergency cases. Those are the main things that I can think of. Anyone else, something else that they've come across that's pretty common? That's in the medical space, or yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think you got the main ones,
Yeah.
Alex.
I think that's it. Now, for our service task, right, what do we need the agent to do? So obviously, we need them to book, right? So book, cancel, update appointments. We're going to want her to pull information. So pull information from, in this case, we're going to be using Google Sheets, but we want her to pull information, also push information too. So we need her to send information. So maybe the patient's policy number, insurance policy number, all that basic information. So we need her to push and pull information. What else? We might need her to send an email. So maybe like a confirmation email. We can go ahead and do that. What else? Transfer, right? So we need her to transfer. A client is unhappy, or maybe it's a medical provider. We can just transfer them over to staff. Let me see. What other service tasks? Anyone else think of anything there? All right.
What about answering the actual questions, or is that not considered service?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess, sorry. Pull push information would probably qualify for that.
Yeah, but answering general questions, right? I don't know what the hell I'm spelling there. So answer general questions for sure. I think that kind of feels like it covers it there. Cool. Now, in terms of the channels, for this one, it's going to be pretty obvious. We're going to be doing an inbound. Oh, by the way, sorry, before I forget. Also, part of the reason that we're doing this, sometimes it's best to break this up into multiple agents. So to answer your question there regarding who was asking the hallucinations, oftentimes when we know that they're a medical provider, or we know that they're this type of audience, because we're going to have their phone number, we can just load an agent that's specific to them. So that's kind of the other benefit of breaking it down like this. For here, for our channel, well, obviously it's going to be using inbound. You can later on, again, expand this. For our tech stack, obviously we're going to be using Retell AI. We're going to be using Google Sheets throughout this. And again, what I'm showing you guys here is what we're going to be building essentially and throughout these series of workshops. So all these things, we're going to build some way to handle it, right? We're going to handle the emergencies. We're going to handle the referral, the post appointment, all this stuff we're going to be building out. Okay, so that's why it's there. Same thing with the service task. All this stuff we're going to be building. Here for our tech stack, we're going to be using Google Sheets. I know Airtable is another one that people like, so we'll go ahead and use Airtable for our tech stack. What else are we using? We can send email. So for email, we can simply just use Gmail to do that. To bridge the connection for some of these things, we're going to be using N8N. And for our calendar, we will use iCal, or iCal, sorry, cal.com. Yeah, I think that's pretty much going to be our tech stack. And again, we can always add more stuff to it. And if you guys have any other tools you guys want to integrate with, we can certainly do them. Now the requirements, a lot of these you're often going to get from the client or depending on the business. So because, in this example, right, we are going to be building a medical agent. It needs to be HIPAA compliant. So that's kind of like the main thing that we need to do there. HIPAA compliance. Depending on your business, you might have different requirements, whatever that may be for you. I think that's pretty much it. Going to be for my requirements there. And then we want to think about the possible errors. This is a huge one. And this is kind of what you see here in this breakdown, where down here, we have some error handling and how we might answer to some of those things. So that can be things like misunderstand the information. Maybe it was unclear. Maybe it was delayed. There could have been a disconnection. So we want to be aware of those things. The Mila note, I'll share the Mila note. If the Notion, if it's not in there for some reason, I'll share the Mila note. So let's see here. Okay, you should be able to see that now. there in the Notion document. That's what we're working on right now. Cool. Perfect. Okay. So possible errors, right? So one, the model can be down. So maybe we're using ChatGPT, so model could be down, which we will need to set some sort of fallback. That's how we would handle that, right? So model could be down. What else do we have?
Errors with the calendar when booking an appointment.
Yeah, there you go.
Are you going to have a human transfer in there as well?
Yeah, so we can have a transfer doesn't complete, right? So we have like some sort of transfer error because we are going to be transferring to a staff. So maybe the customer is angry or whatever, so we need to transfer to a staff. But that could be transfer doesn't complete. Maybe they don't pick up, right? So then we need a way to handle that.
I missed what you said about the hallucinations, but is that something that would qualify as an error, or is that its own standalone?
Yeah, we can put it. Technically, that could qualify as an error, and yes, that's actually a great one. I don't know how to spell hallucination, so don't judge me. I'm just gonna start right there. I'm just stop right there. But yes, absolutely. And some of the ways that we're going to be doing that is going to be through like building a separate agent. For example, you're going to know in a medical practice, you're often going to know like when a surgical center is calling you or when a pharmacy is calling you, because they're typically going to use the same phone numbers. So then we can take that information and then just create an agent specifically for them, right? We don't need to tell them, what's your birthday and all that stuff. They're not a patient. So we can make that a slightly different, and we can reduce some of those hallucinations there. So hopefully that makes sense there.
Hey, Alex, how would you handle identification issues in this case? Because we are talking about medical. We do have to assume that there's going to be some level of pen testing and privacy issues that pop up. So, for example, if someone's calling about an appointment, how do we verify ID before we relay that information?
Yeah, so it depends. Typically, you're going to verify through like their birthday. Is that what you're referring to? Like if I'm calling, is that what you're asking me?
Well, yeah, sort of. Yeah, I guess because this is an automated system, you can assume there's a certain level of, pen testing that's going to happen against it. Whether that's by bad actors, competitors, whatever. And I'm just wondering, like, aside from a birthday can be pretty easily spoofed, or an agent in my testing can be pretty easily confused unless it's really boxed in. So I'd like to see how you set up guardrails to avoid talking about stuff it shouldn't be talking about, even though it has access to the database.
But that would be an issue with the live agent.
Yeah, exactly. That was going to be my thing. And we are going to be discussing some of the do's and don'ts. But to prove your point exactly, that could happen now, because I can call a doctor office, and if I have that person's birthday, well, how do they know that I'm not them? Like I can just say, hey, I'm John Smith and here's my birthday and I want this information. Like they're still going to give it to me if I have that. I suppose like another way could be like, and this would be the thing about that, it wouldn't be proper patient experience, but I suppose, hey, what's your name? What's your birthday? Great. I'm going to check you on the system and I'm going to send you a text message to verify. That could possibly, but again, the patient experience, and then how do you deal with it with all elderly patients? So I completely get you there. And
Alex, one thing that I use and I tried is using the webhooks and search my CRM or whatever system I'm using for the phone number and then pull the information. So I already know and just confirm that's actually the person that's calling.
Yeah, and maybe I misunderstood, and we are going to be doing that because we are going to be pulling in the information when you call. Right now, here we're going to be using Google Sheets and Airtable kind of as our database, but in the real life, you're going to be using an EMR or an EHR for that. And we absolutely will be pulling that information. But and I'm sorry, I forget who was asking this question. I think maybe it was more about like, even though I will have access to the information, and yes, I can reference your birthday. Like, how do I know that you are the person that you say you are? Is that? Maybe I misunderstood, but I think maybe that's what you were leaning towards.
And not necessarily just about that, but like in our testing, we do a ton of testing with Hamming. And we've created a lot of personas to be bad actors who just try to confuse and basically overrule the AI. And we've seen that AIs can be fooled to get data that they shouldn't be able to, regardless of whether they know the name or the birth date or anything like that. So I'm just wondering, like, can you show some guardrails to say, hey, never talk about this unless it's specifically been verified or something like that?
So that's going to be a great one. And we will certainly test that out. There's a new feature, I'm not sure if you guys seen it here in Retell, that allows us to do simulations. So you know that's probably would be a great simulation for us to do. We can certainly do a simulation with bad actors, and we can create some of them, and then we can see how that acts, and then we can handle that. So yeah, I like that. So let's yeah, we can certainly do that.
Could you also, since it's an automated system, could you add caller recognize if someone calls back, the AI recognizes them? I think that's a great feature.
Yeah, so we absolutely can do that, and we can definitely handle that, right? So it's like, so maybe we called someone or they, yeah, exactly. We can do that. Caller calls back. And for this, you know what, we can just do inbound/outbound. It's pretty much going to be both. Yeah, so we absolutely can do that. Any other possible errors that you guys can think? I really like the what you guys are coming up with too here, especially this whole phishing. I like that. Any of the errors you guys foresee? No. And again, we can always update this as we go along. So that's not a problem. Perfect. Oops, ASR errors. Okay, so we can add that there too. Now the type of callers, and for this I use good old Claude here too, just so I can get a better idea of the different types of callers, because this is really going to help me break down my my prompt and my personality. So let me go to good old prompt here. Just going to copy this. No, can just press copy there. And then we'll just get some ideas in terms of the different people that are going to be calling, which we already kind of know a little bit. So anxious patient, that could certainly be the case, especially like if you're going to get some sort of like treatment and you don't like going to the dentist. I'm not a huge fan of the dentist myself. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to put this like side by side here so we can see better, and then that's easier for us. So we can definitely put the anxious patients. We might need to change the way we talk to them. And because we can, yeah, patients. Obviously, we did talk about new patients, right? So they're going to need to be handled slightly different than from a returning patient. For a returning patient, for example, because we're going to have their phone number, we most likely have them in our systems. So then we can gather information and we can pull information from them to make the call different. So we can handle them as well. Busy professionals, I don't think we need to talk to them any different. Typical receptionist should be fine. Now, senior patient, I am going to put this senior patient just because they require more patience. You might need to repeat things a little bit back. You might need to talk a little bit slower. So we want to take that into account. This one, the parent coordinator, again, depending on who, right? So we could have a scenario where a parent is calling on behalf of, like, they're making an appointment for the kid. What else do we have? We did talk about the emergency situation, right? So type of caller, they could be in a lot of pain. Let's see what else. People that don't speak English, right? That's another big one, depending on where you're at. So we might need to handle that. This agent is starting off just as in English, but if a lot of our callers are speaking a different language, then we might need to handle that. And you know what? We can actually handle it. That way you guys can also see how we can handle multilingual. So why not just do it as well? Makes no sense. I only know Spanish, so I'm going to put Spanish there, even though she doesn't look like she speaks Spanish.
What about mouth injuries? This is a dentist office, so if someone gets their teeth knocked out, they're going to be speaking a lot differently than they would normally.
Yeah, that is a good one. That can fall within the emergency, but that is true. What if they can't speak, right? And that would possibly could be even like one of the possible errors here. Maybe they can't speak well. Maybe we can't understand them. That could potentially be an issue. So we got to see how we can handle that. Type of caller. So we could have pharmacies, right? So I know pharmacies will call about medication. Insurance companies can call. Labs. Labs can often call and say, hey, you know, this patient's labs are ready, blah, blah, blah. Accessibility needs, I'm not entirely sure what the accessibility needs are. I'm not sure if anyone has any experience on that. I mean, they should be able to call and talk to it, so it should be pretty straightforward. Obviously, people that complain, typically the way we handle complaints is pass over to a human staff right away. High maintenance and detail-oriented patient. I'm going to skip that one. Can't think of anything there. Tech savvy. So another medical provider, definitely that will happen a lot. So I'm going to take that into account. And we can continue to ask this for more. I won't do that, but you know, I think you guys kind of get the point there. Can you think of any other possible ones there, in types of audiences that I might have missed, or maybe that you guys have experience if you're in this sort of field there? Yeah, so speech impaired. And Elvis, yeah, we can add another language. It doesn't have to be just Spanish. Luigi speaks, you know, we can add another language. Luigi speaks Italian, so we can also add that one as well. That way, you can see how it can handle multiple language.
How about if salespeople call and they want to sell something to how would it handle that?
Yeah, there you go. So then you have sales, right? So salespeople or vendors. Typically for those, we always just take a message. Like if we determine that they're trying to sell us something, it's like, look, just take a message and we'll call you back. So we can definitely handle some of those there as well. Mouth injury, yeah, mouth, yeah. Like I said, I'm not the best at spelling there, and I still didn't spell it right. So there's that. Call complaint, yeah. So complaining, I did get that one there. Call complaining. I think that should be. That seems pretty straightforward there. If there's any other ones that you guys want to handle, you know, feel free to let me know. But otherwise, we'll move on. Are we all good so far? Is this making sense? Yeah, cool, perfect. All right, now personality. So this is where I like this part better. You know, how is she going to be? For my introduction, this is where I'm going to come in with my greeting, right? So this is all this stuff is essentially going to translate into prompts and into tasks for us and into sorry, it just got lost by the sidetrack here by this question here. Everything that we're going to be taking here is going to translate into a prompt. It's going to translate into a function or to a tool that we're going to be communicating with. So we'll work on this. Let me actually separate this. On the introduction, you know, it depends how you want to introduce yourself. I typically like to say like, thank you for calling, you know, whatever business name it is. So it's going to be Cheeto Dental, just because that's the name of my cat.
Good old Cheeto.
Good old Cheeto. And so I just like giving her my introduction message. You may have multiple ones. It's up to you. And yes, there will be a catch-all that if something does happen, then yeah, do this. We will have a catch-all. Core personality. So what are some of the things that we want her to be for a dental practice? You know, you typically want her to be like warm, So we might want her to be like warm. You know, if people are calling with emergencies and things like that, we might want her to be like empathetic. You know, calm, especially if people are yelling or angry. You know, we might want her to be calm. Obviously, she has to be professional. What else we need? She should speak clearly and detailed oriented. What else? What else do you guys think sort of personality traits would you find helpful in a receptionist?
I'll just put kind.
All right. All right, that sounds good. Now, key elements, by key elements, is like certain things, like she needs to know about dental services, right? So she needs to know about dental services, but she doesn't need to, she's obviously not the one doing it, but she needs to have knowledge about dental services, understanding of how insurance works. And maybe like the different payment plans accepted. So we can fit these, we can feed this to the knowledge base about the key elements. So she needs to gather necessary information, which typical for dental practice is obviously going to be the name, you know, phone. We need to gather like an email address, probably date of birth, insurance number. That's typically, you know, kind of like the minimal stuff that we need to collect.
And do they need anything urgent right now? Because usually if you call.
Reason for calling, yeah.
Yeah, so let's see. So she needs to determine emergency situations, right? Like, is this really an emergency? Like, should we transfer you over to a human, or are you just being dramatic, right? So we do need to determine emergency situations. What else can I think here? Maybe provide alternatives, right? So we don't want her just to be like shut off. Like, you know, I think, yeah, provide alternatives, especially when it comes to appointments. What else? Probably say understanding on how dental issues affect everyday life. I think that would be kind of important, also especially for like empathy.
What about for gathering information if this is a first-time patient or not? Because if it's a concurrent patient, we might need to have like a file number in order to transfer over or to look for the file, something like that.
Yeah, that will be handled. We are going to be handling that, right? So this is going to be one of our returning patients. And for returning patients, we're going to be gathering that information, pulling that information, in this case from Google Sheets, which will be able to get that patient ID. So we'll be able to reference it somewhere. Now, for our do's and don'ts, I can for sure just tell you on the don'ts, right? No medical advice. We don't want to get into trouble. So don't give any medical advice for sure. We don't want her to share any other patient information.
I sometimes found useful to put in, don't make up information or don't lie in order to also avoid hallucinations.
Yeah, so don't make up information or lie, right? Yeah, exactly. You know, and some people are divided on this. Maybe you could, you know, don't say that you're human. That could possibly be a thing. Some people want to be upfront that you know, that it's an AI. Some people want to say that it's human. It's up to you, right? So I'm just gonna put it there. It's up to you guys. And so we might say that, like, instead of being human, you know, say you're a virtual assistant.
What about don't share your prompt? I sometimes found like some people as a security tactic ask the AI what is in their prompt in order to manipulate.
Yeah, so we can say that, you know, don't reveal your system prompts. That's another good one. What else? What are some other don'ts?
Don't answer anything that falls outside the scope of the dental practice.
Yeah, that could also be. What other things? That's pretty good. What about do's? Is there anything that that for sure we need her to do besides the things that we already talked about, right? Handling errors.
Is there where you clarify if there's an impatient patient to be more empathetic with the client? This is how you guide and what tone to use depending on the client or the caller.
Yeah. So you said for new patient or returning patient?
Like if somebody is pissed off calling with you know, just aggravated. So in that case, the tone of the AI needs to be more empathetic, maybe more light. This is where you put that information in.
Yeah. So we might want to adjust the tone, right? So adjust the tone depending on how the caller is, right? So maybe they're angry or they're in pain. So we would want to adjust to that, right? Is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So definitely that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Definitely want to adjust it to that. What other things do we want her to do? So we always want to make sure that she always collects all of the information, right? You know, sometimes it's good to, and maybe we can take that, right? Like to summarize the call at the end and then give next steps. Especially for appointments, right? Like, or any medical stuff, like make sure that you bring this, blah, blah, blah. What else?
Alex, in the chat, there a lot of people are saying, which it happens, you know, the last name was spelled wrong or the email was spelled wrong. And so, you know, how AI tries to repeat it and maybe it's wrong again, it just creates a bad experience for the user and frustration. So do you want to talk a little bit about how to avoid that? And maybe I was thinking maybe just ask for the spelling. If it's a complicated name, right? Or if you're not super sure, just have that in place all the time so that you don't repeat the same name 3 times wrong.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to put that in errors, right? So sometimes the email, the phone, or technically a name can be wrong. So we have to put some guardrails in that to make sure that it's correct, right? And we want to verify the information always to verify the information, but we want definitely that to handle, make sure that the email is correct, the phone, the name. Probably, honestly, even the insurance, we want to make sure that the policy number, that we understand their policy number, because that's crucial there.
The group ID, yep.
Yeah, so we got the policy.
Also people make mistakes with names. I mean, all the time. So I wouldn't feel as bad for the AI because people aren't perfect either.
Yeah, but I think, so we definitely need to have that and make sure that verify that information, possibly repeat it back, right? So make sure that this is your email. The phone number we can overcome, and we're going to overcome that using the inbound webhook, which we were going to be going through. So I'm not too concerned about the phone number, but that also another possible error that I just realized is the caller could be not the person making the appointment. Sometimes, like for example, like if it's an elderly patient, like I might be calling on behalf of my grandma, my sister can be calling, so we do have to take that into account. That could be something there. But cool. Anything else that you just wanted to add on here that I might have missed? Any questions, concerns?
What about stick with the knowledge base on regard of pricing, for example? When you want to be as accurate as possible, and for pricing, don't make up, don't look the web, just look for the KB.
Yeah, so we can do that. Now for dental, we can provide a range of pricing. But for
Depends on
dental,
the insurance.
like for dental, I would probably actually even say that don't give specific pricing, because we want to say, hey, it's going to cost you $1,000 to do Invisalign or to do veneers, when no way it's going to cost you $1,000 to do veneers.
I think the only pricing really that you can give is these, advertisement that they create, like first time cleaning, first time patient, $79. That's really the only thing that they do. They never give out prices because it depends on what insurance you have.
Yeah, that depends on so much.
Every plan is different. Every plan has different coverage and copay. So you cannot just say it's this much.
Yeah, just a range. Just provide a range.
Yeah.
Especially maybe like any deals, right? Like maybe like a first time patient deal or something.
Right.
But yeah, I think in general, just avoid the pricing. Defer to the doctor, or when you come in for your appointment.
But is it a safe net to refer to the knowledge base that we upload? Like, could that be a safe net? Maybe not get into full pricing, but just like the general idea, the ranges, pull it from the knowledge base. Would that be a good idea?
Yeah. And we're going to be creating a knowledge base as well. So we're going to be going over literally everything. So yes, we can certainly upload that to a knowledge base. I like simple English, right? So I think that falls in the maybe like the key elements, right? So keep it simple. So keep it simple. Maybe we don't want to avoid no complicated terms, right? Or medical lingo, really. Yeah, so I like that. What else?
I think you got it covered, Alex.
Yep, I'm just going through the questions. I'm just kind of seeing what people are putting here. Philip, you have a question?
Hello, everybody. Like my trouble was, I have a German agent with German language. I don't know if it's different in English, but when the AI spells the name, or even the email is way too fast. It's just like your email is ABCDD. Like you get me? Like just get it to slow down and spell in the natural way.
Do you have spaces? Are you adding pauses in between each character?
Like in the script and examples?
Yeah, so if I go to retail here, and yeah, exactly. In the
Yes,
script.
yes, but it still does it. I couldn't fix it.
Okay,
Maybe I didn't do it right.
How did you do it? So I'll show you real quick. So you can add spacing. What am I doing? What is going on here?
Yeah, I have the same issue in German. I tried the same to get the email address and repeat. It's not really possible. I tried some different ways with lines and one minus and something else between the signs. And yeah, I didn't find the right way now at this moment.
Yeah, I guess with English, it will respect the space dash space for spacing on some of the words. But as soon as you speak the language, then you have to try something else. Like that space dash space trick doesn't work in another language. That's what I noticed.
Got it. So okay, so that's interesting. So you're saying that it works in English, but if I go to why don't we just try it?
Sure.
Yeah, we tried that in Italian, Alex. Remember, we had that issue.
For the email, and it wasn't doing it either?
No, it kept saying, like, in English is at, right? In Italian we don't say at, but when she was repeating it back in Italian, she would say the first name and the last name, and then she would say at. I'm like, at, nobody's going to understand you because we don't say at in Italian. So I literally had to spell it. So I put, I'll type it here in the chat. I put email, and then in Italian is chiocciola. I don't know what's in German. I did it this way. Look. So,
Mhm.
so you have to put that word in parentheses, and that did it for me.
Oh, what's the parentheses?
Did you put it in the chat, Luigi?
Yeah,
Or
I just put it in the chat now.
Okay.
It's my
Interesting, because I put it on Spanish, the ad is put it in Spanish without the parentheses, and it will skip that word entirely. It will be your email is email.com.
it just speaks super fast. Yeah, I know. No, if you try the parentheses, because it worked for me.
I'm going to share something in the chat just now that I used. Is this that to put a pause in like this?
Yeah, that could also be.
You can use that in any language. You could just change the amount, the milliseconds. That's 500 milliseconds. You could just change it to however at your own pace.
And here is the documentation from 11 Labs, which I'll paste this, which mentions that. So there's docs, which is this, right? It does the breaks, and it kind of talks about it because we are using 11 Labs, so we're popping in that there. So that's a documentation for that. I mean, let's give it a shot. I'm using here Spanish, so theoretically it should go slow and tell me this in Spanish. Right?
The problem is a break in German is that the time between the letters will be longer between the letters. It's, for example, it's Marcus, M-A-R-C-U-S. It's M-A-R-C-U, and so on and so on. It will go slower and slower and slower. And I asked ChatGPT for that, and he means that it's a loop. That the prompt will be go in the some latency with every break between the letters. Also with phone numbers repeating, it's getting slower and slower at the end, really slow.
Let's try it. Let's try it out.
I tried a lot of spent a lot of time for this problem and didn't find a solution.
Let's try it out.
So we're not hearing the audio, just to let you know.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. Well, so I'm just it's just me. Okay. Okay. I thought you guys were listening to the audio, so that makes no sense. Let me see. I'm not sure how I can give you access to it. Either way, it didn't work. It didn't sound great. Yeah, there's definitely an issue there. So that's something for us to overcome. So I would definitely look into this whole process more and play around with that.
What I found as a workaround, just for the people here, we don't have to test it, but just to remove the space in the bracket, and the ad symbol, you got to spell it. The tab, you got to spell it, and yeah, that's how I will say it correctly. And then you just put in the prompt for email, just say this slowly in the prompt.
Okay.
And what I find out is depends on what sound you get from 11 Labs, which agent, which I don't know the word now. You know, you have the possibility to get some different agents, and it depends which one you choose. Some will be better than others. And in German, there's a very small possibility to choose good voices. Voice was the word I'm looking for. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and you know what? That's something that Luigi and I came across with the Italian. We were trying to find an Italian voice, and we're seeing this that for a lot of different other languages, it's kind of difficult, just because like the quality is not there. Yeah, we came across that too, like with Italian. Cool.
Yeah, the lesson that we learned, guys, is use whatever you see in 11 Labs. Do not import voices from 11 Labs, like in your own language, German, Italian, whatever. because we noticed that the latency went up quite a bit. And we actually use Simo, which Alex has now on the screen, and you just change the language there and it will do it. We also learned that you do not need to do the prompt in that language. I did it in Italian. Comes around that we could have just done it in English and just have the agent do the calling in that language anyway. Just something to say that I didn't know.
Thanks for that, Luigi, because I was actually going to, like, I actually like Beto, which is like an Argentinian accent, but
Yeah.
I've been noticing that sometimes it takes like 3 to 4 seconds to reply back once I'm done talking, and I'm like, I didn't remember when with the other provider to be this slow, or even within retail. But then what you're saying is with just like use Simo in Spanish, and
Yes.
that's okay.
Yes, because as soon as we imported an Italian voice, I think the latency went up to 2300.
Yeah, it went up.
Which made it like 4 seconds wait, and it was just not doable.
Well, thanks for the tip, man.
Yeah.
Excuse me, you just like, because I also use the integrated German voice, but also sometimes I have like 4 seconds delay, and if I get you guys right, it decreases the latency if I do the prompt in English as well, or did I understand it wrong?
Well, the prompt itself really doesn't matter. That was more like for convenience, but you can use Simo, which Alex has now on, or really any voice that you like in 11 Labs, and then just change the language. So do not import, like what I did was I went to 11 Labs, listened to all of the Italian voices. I'm like, okay, I like this one. I imported the agent here, and the latency went from 1500 to 2300 just because of that.
Yes.
Without changing any settings. So the 4 seconds that you're experiencing is probably because of that.
You're talking about the voices from 11 Labs and custom 11 Lab voices? Those
Correct.
two?
The custom ones like this one.
Yeah. So we imported that one, and yeah, it sounded great, it sounded natural, but what's the point if it takes 4 seconds, right?
I thought that was an issue with the model being 4.0, because then you have the real time. So maybe I can work with it. The real time doesn't take custom voice either.
No, yeah, Realtime doesn't take custom voice. When you select the real time, you see all of these get removed. You're just
you're stuck with OpenAI,
Cool.
which are not really the best voices in my opinion.
But earlier, just right now, you said use Simo and then change the language. I use Simo for any language.
Correct.
So that's like the best latency, Simo.
Well, yeah, and it also sounds the most natural. You'd be surprised.
In any language. Okay, great. I'll try it.
Yeah. Just try it in German now. You'd be surprised. You'd be like, okay,
Wow,
this is actually really good. And you know, you don't pay for the latency in that sense.
Okay, great.
Sorry, guys, I also have question related to different languages. We built several agents in Hebrew, and the 11 Labs doesn't have any Hebrew voice. So we tried to use real-time model in retail. It didn't work. And when we used real-time real-time directly from OpenAI API, it did work. We just needed to make all the prompts in Hebrew, and it did work. But we wanted to use it in. Is there any option to use real-time straightforward through retail and using prompts in Hebrew, which is right to left?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah. On that one.
Is there a difference between direct real-time model from OpenAI and through retail?
No, there shouldn't be a difference between the prompt that retail provides and that real-time provides, because they're connected. So this is just being sent over to them. I've never tried the Hebrew. We can try it.
We tried a lot. So that's the only way that I managed to do it is using real-time direct from OpenAI, but I lose all the capabilities like, I don't know, logging, recording, and all this stuff that you provide basically.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that for sure we got to test out more. Let me see if this works really quick. I don't know why you guys can't hear my. Hello? Are you there? Hello?
We hear you, Alex.
All right, then. This thing.
We hear you.
Oh, sorry. Look, I have this thing all confused here. I'm trying to get it to speak Hebrew, set like with the German language. Not working. Do you speak Hebrew?
Yes, I do. Of course.
There.
Horrible, horrible, horrible. I mean, I've heard Hebrew, and that thing was like the most computer robotic thing ever. So yeah, that didn't work for sure. Yeah, so that's yeah, I think we're gonna have to do a little more testing on that, honestly, on the whole Hebrew and just on other languages in general too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, concerns, guys? Just quickly go through some of these regarding Anur. I'm not sure if that's how I pronounce your name. Regarding the dynamic variables, it seems like you were having an issue and it was saying that it was not passing the value. Always check your call history. Anytime you guys are passing dynamic variables, if you go to your call log and you go to the data, it should tell you the value of the dynamic variables. That has happened to me where like it won't tell me the value, and it's not telling me because it wasn't actually there. I either like like I didn't spell it correctly, or maybe I forgot to transfer it over. So always check your data in here, and then you'll be able to see what values were being passed over. So if you can check that and see if that client ID was being passed there.
I have it's somewhat related to this. Like I have one assistant for inbound, and in the prompt it says, if you know the person's name, then address the person with lady / oh no, in English it's different, sir / madam, just like this. It's just written like this. And then if the person doesn't say their name, it would just sometimes say sir, madam.
Okay, me? so you haven't okay. So you have an inbound agent, and you're not using dynamic variables or anything like that. It's
without a dynamic value. Like in the prompt, I say if the person tells you your name, address them with sir, madam, their name. You get me? And it works if I say hello, my name is Mr. Rogers, for example. I would say hello, Mr. Rogers. But if I don't say my name, it would just say hello, sir, madam.
Okay, but how do you want them? How should it handle if they don't say their name without saying sir, madam? So how would you do it?
Yeah, then it just needs to be kind of neutral. So it should also write this probably. Like a natural conversation, because it's not natural to say sir / madam.
Okay.
The problem that model cannot recognize nor if it's man or woman. That's why it's happening.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to think like, well, how else would you say like? I mean, it sounds, maybe I'm wrong here. It sounds normal, right? Like if you call me and, well, how can I help you, sir? Yeah. If I don't know your name, like how else would I say it?
Yeah, maybe in the beginning, of course, but then, yeah, I understand the problem. Of course, it won't recognize female or male, and it's a problem if the person doesn't say the name. How should the agent address them? So it needs to definitely ask. Okay, so I just maybe that's the idea. Just let the agent ask for the name if the person doesn't say it. So will have a clear instruction how to address the person.
Yeah, I see. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Got you. Yeah. So maybe we have to be like insistent on asking them for their name, right? Say something like, so I can properly
Exactly.
address you. Can I have your name, please?
And even when maybe for this case, when the variables are, the dynamic variables are empty, then maybe just supposed to ask. So it won't say the name of the variable.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I have a unrelated question if it's okay.
Yeah, sorry, let me get to Jerome really quick and I will get back to you there, Daniel.
Yep, totally.
Jerome.
Yeah, sorry, thousands of questions, but I think there's
It's all good.
people. So I would just ask one very simple. I just asked to some guys on sales area to be called back, and I don't know if it's the right time because you're making a great and very impressive demonstration and what type of advice we need to follow. So first of all, thanks a lot. But it would be nice if there's one sales guy that can call me back just to talk about the pricing, which there are some unclear stuff for me there to understand. And I really would like to know more about that. And it's I just don't have one question. I have several one about that. So I'm just raising my hand for that and don't want to take too much of your time.
Okay. So, but regarding the pricing, so the way you pay incoming calls or just for outbound calls?
Yeah,
Yes,
just to clarify, when I talk about the pricing, I mean, depending on your website is quite well done about that. When you just mention if you are using, for example, 11 labs for the specific voice you want to add to make it sound more natural, which is great. And I don't understand if we have some price to pay when we receive the call and when we send the call. I'm not sure I understood it well about that. It seems from my understanding, you don't pay when you receive the call and you have to pay when you do the call. And depending which technology you are using, because for me it's unclear, but there's the Retell technology, there's the GPT technology, there's the 11 labs, for example, technology. So I don't understand in which circumstances each of them are used and how they're used. And for example, in the bidding I just received, I see that there was some GPT at price taking in consideration, even if it's not a lot. It's just to understand the model, how that works. So again, I don't want to take too much of the time here because I understand it's not the goal to talk about that. But if I can have someone just give me a ring for a few minutes anytime, that would be very nice.
Yeah, I can certainly get someone. I can pass this message along to Evie. In terms of the price breakdown, you for sure get charged inbound and outbound.
Okay.
For sure. Just because like a lot of these calls, they were inbound and you get charged from. So
okay.
For sure.
And thanks for that. And do you think I can have a sales guy calling me back to enter more in the details of some stuff?
Can you put your info, please?
I mean my email?
Yeah, like can you put your email there, please?
Sure.
In the chat.
Sure.
And I can pass that along there.
And maybe if I have one more bonus question, because it's all about taking the detail of the call, especially how many times a person spent on the call. I try to find this information, the API documentation, but again, it's unclear. For me, it's very clear how you use the function to transfer a call or to make a link with cal.com if you are using that or whatever. So that's very clear. But to receive the information about the call which has been done, when did it start, when did it stop? This is the function I did not understand well.
Okay, I'll show you that really quick before. Look, you can get the exact breakdown, right? So like on the call, if you see if I hover over this little pie chart, it tells me everything, like the cost per minute, and then I paid 11 labs, how much 11 labs was, GPT, and then the telephony.
Yeah, but I
and
mean, in the API, what do you need to code in terms of functions? That's
So on the in terms of the API call, and we can take a look at some. You're in the post. Let me see here. Let me remember which one it is. Cancel appointment. Post call analysis. Let's take a look at the post call analysis. In the post call analysis of every call, 3 events are going to be fired. One of them is going to be your start conversation. So call started, which you can tap into. The one that you want is going to be the call analysis. We have call started, call ended, and call analysis.
Okay.
This is call analyze. In the call analyze, you're going to have the start time. It's the end time, transcript. You have the complete object here that gives you the whole, like, literally breakdown by breakdown. You have the transcript with the tool calls. This will tell you whatever tool call was called at whatever particular time. So you have that information there. You have obviously the recording. You have the latency there. The reason for the disconnection, the cost of the call, and it gives you literally like the entire breakdown there of the cost. And then we obviously have the call analysis and then any other information here. Is that what you were referring to?
yes, thanks a lot.
Yeah, so that's going to be a call analysis. And that's the way you get that information is using an agent webhook. When you go to your whatever agent it is that you're using, right here. So just make sure that you pop that wherever you're using, that information is going to be sent over.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yep, no problem. Daniel, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks. So my question is, sometimes, and maybe this is because of the latency that we just talked about the agent, and I'll test with anyone to see if it persists, but I could see that every so often the like the agent would, you know, ask me a question and I would just reply with a simple yes or no, and I would try to, and sometimes it missed it. So I would go back to the call history, and I could see that I could hear myself like saying yes or no, but maybe on the text, I guess, like on the transcript, it didn't pick it up. And I could see how even hear it. I could see myself hearing say yes, but at the very beginning, I guess it kind of missed it. But I was sort of, and I wasn't really trying to be like test the limits of it. I would, you know, like wait for like half a second and then reply yes to the agent's question. So I just wanted to know if like there are some best practices or some causes that might have been causing that, besides like, you know, the latency issue with this particular AI agent.
Yeah, if you have the call ID, we can certainly check it out. Would you happen to have that?
Yeah. Let me
You
go
go to
ahead
call
and get
history.
it real quick. Yeah. But
Uh,
I do have it. But yeah, let me just get it. Maybe.
Yeah, that would be the best. That way we can kind of take a look at it specifically. Because there's a couple of cases, like you can see here, I was testing out a couple of calls, and you know, like all of a sudden, like I had this one, which was the same thing, but it was like 3,000 milliseconds. And then you can see like it shot up to 23, and then after that, it was kind of fine. So yeah, if you do have the call, that would be best there. That we can take a look at it.
Okay. Right now, I don't think it's easy for me to get it, but I'll just like, you know, go offline and just like, you know, see that, but go offline with you. But yeah, yeah, we'll figure it out then offline. Thanks a lot, Alex.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at it. You can email it to me. That's my email. So you can just email it to me if you do find it, or if you have me on Discord, you can send it to me on Discord. You can email it to me if you do come across it, because we want to take a look at that and see what's going on there. So yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
I don't know how to pronounce your name, so I'm sorry. Savon? I don't know.
Yes, this is Sovan Sheikh.
Someone, okay. What's going on, man?
Yes. So the question I had, like, if I am using a retail number as an outbound phone number, then you have implemented this verification process. And for that, I have to use persona. But the thing is, if I am using persona, it is not able to verify my face with the photo of the ID I am uploading. So it's always telling that not able to verify photos.
You're to log into retail?
No.
Is that
After logging in, I can see there is a notification that if you are using a retail number for outbound calling, then you have to verify yourself, verify my identity.
okay?
And then if I am trying to verify it, you have implemented the verification through persona. Persona, it's an app. Through that, the verification will take process. So basically, I will open persona, my front camera will open, and they will take my selfie. And then it would ask me to upload the photo of my ID card.
Okay, and it's not verifying.
Yes.
Is it giving you any specific error, or is it just saying like we can verify it? Is it giving you anything?
Not able to verify photo.
Not able to verify.
That normally happens when the photo's not clear enough. I've done quite a few, and it normally happens is when the photo is not clear. Whenever you take the photograph of your driving license, you can actually expand it before you send it to show that it's clear. It doesn't have any shadows of it. That's the reason why it's happened to some people I know in the past. That may help you. Just make sure you're in a lighted area, and then the camera is not got a shadow over it, because it really needs to be clear.
Okay. So what I'm doing, like in India, they like issue this national ID card, and the photo taken there is like 8 years back. So I think that might be one reason. So I was also trying to use my passport to verify that. Now the thing is, my passport is also issued like 10 years back. So the photo is like 10 years back photo. And that's why I think the AI is not able to verify the photo.
Yeah, it does, isn't it? It takes a video clip, like Twilio do it and Telenex do it as well, where you tend to have to verify for outbound calls, and then you also you show your passport plus the video clip. And I suppose if you don't look the same in both, then you're not going to they're not going to verify it's the same identity necessarily. You might, but is it with retail or is it with Twilio or?
On Twilio, they did not do this verify because I am using actually numbers from Twilio for outbound, and they did not ask for, let's say, verification with video call or selfie. I just uploaded my ID card and like I am using it. And so like, can we have an alternative method, let's say on Retell AI, where we can upload our ID card photos instead of going through persona?
We'll certainly pass this information over. Can you put your email on there, please?
Sure.
Maybe quick, so we can also see your account. And I did get your email to, let me see, I think I did get it, Jerome.
What about a driving license as well?
Yeah, cool.
Sometimes you can use an alternative ID, like passport or driving license. If you have something else, maybe it's more.
Yeah, so I don't have a driving license. So basically I don't have any ID where I can put my recent photo.
That's going to be a tricky one. Yeah, that's going to be a tricky one. I will find out.
Okay.
I got your email. I will certainly pass this over and pass that information over, see what we can do there. Yeah.
Thank you, man. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Steve, you have a question?
Yeah, buddy. Quick one. By the way, great. All this video, this workflow. Thank you very much for sharing your time.
Yeah, no problem.
I have a question, and I have a workaround solution. What I'm doing is I'd like to tell you the question, then what I'm doing right now. So in case of this problem, it cannot be fixed, you can tell me how to improve the workaround. Now, for example, on the built-in summary of the call, it's in English, but I push that summary to an email for my Spanish-speaking people, they still get it in English, the summary of the call. So as a workaround, what I'm doing, I just add in another, I use make.com for the automation. I add another node for OpenAI in order to make the translation. Now that works fine. They just add another layer of an automation, another slightly adds another cost to it just to translate that part. Now the question is, can I edit the summary built in Retell in order to say another language, or are we stuck with that?
For the time being, I believe so. Absolutely. We've seen that. That's why we use this. Like, that's why we have that agent webhook. And like, I know you're using Make, I'm using N8N here. We experienced that also as well with the Italian when I was mentioning to you with Luigi. Everything else was in Italian, but except the summary, you know, that has to be translated. So yeah, just like literally as you described, we get that information, and then we just translate it. But for the time being, it is going to keep coming in English. I will inquire about that, but I know for the time being, it is going to continue like that.
You're editing.
Have a workaround.
Sorry, Philip. So you're editing the language inside the. So you're not adding like another module to translate.
Sorry for stepping in. For me, it worked if I just create a custom field in the call analyze. You get me? And then you just wait. You understand what I mean? Like where you can. Sorry, I have to check the name.
You add
the call analysis.
Yeah, the call analysis, right? And then I just put a custom field there and called it a summary, and the description is in German, and then it just does a description for me. I just put there in German, do a summary of the call, and then it just puts a German summary there for me. So maybe you can try in your language.
Yeah, buddy, definitely gonna try that. I like that. That's way more simple than just messing around with the automation. Thanks, man. Thanks.
Exactly. I like that too. So yeah, thank you there, Philip. That's a good one. I like that. I'm definitely gonna have to save that one. That's a good tip. I didn't even think about that. So.
Yeah, me neither, man. Jesus, that was a good one.
Cool. Joe, you have a question? There.
Yeah, I had a question about the sometimes we get calls where the hang up at the end of the call isn't great. I know we can set things like, you know, end call on silence. I just wondered if there was any tips for getting the agent to hang up quite clean at the end. Sometimes a caller will end and then there's a sort of pause at the end. And in the tests, you know, when people test it, they sort of hang on the line, don't they? And they sort of go like, he's still there, and then it starts talking again. It's just to sort of try and get a cleaner end to the calls. Is there a better way of it to hang up? In this case, we're using Twilio for the phone call, but we don't find that the agent sort of calls that function to end always at the right time.
How do you have written that function? Like, what instructions do you have it for ending that function? Because
so
we would say like silently like that. Because you're calling the function, right? And you're saying that it's not ending properly, like it's still talking afterwards, after the end function.
It might just be purely down to us structuring the prompt slightly better, but at the end of the call, we tell it to, once it's collected the data, to politely end and call the end call function. But we tend to find that it wraps up, and then after saying, you know, sort of farewell, it sometimes hangs for a period, like it's still there, doesn't cut the call straight away. So it's sort of testing that, but it might be, like I said, I've looked at this secondhand, so this isn't actually me doing it. I've gone through it with someone that's run it. We've adjusted apparently the settings they have. So I've heard the recordings where it hasn't hung up, at the end, and so I haven't seen directly. I've seen the script, but only at the beginning as we've gone through it, putting it together, so I can double check it. Yeah.
I would be. Yeah, I would love to see the prompt, like especially towards the end, because that was happening to me before, where like it was like a lot of back and forth, and it sounded like very awkward. Like it's not like natural to end the conversation like that. Like I just want you to say goodbye and like that's it. So like I would explicitly say like silently like thank the caller, politely end the call, and then silently call the function, whatever. It's just like I have it here. And I found that to work for me. So I think it might be something to do with the prompt. I would love to see the prompt. And how that will look.
Function. Okay. What I'm going to do, I'll go back. The first thing I think was to see that it's not something that you guys see and know of. So therefore, it's probably something going back through the code, and I'll go through with the guy. We're supporting them and setting it up on this one, so I haven't seen directly all the time. But I'll go back and review it.
Straightforward for end call. As long as your function is activated, it's there, right? You give it your description, and then we specifically call it out in the prompt or in the task. It should be fine. So again, if you can share that prompt, that would be great.
I'll have a look. That's good. The reason I think I jumped to thinking that was just something to research beforehand is with 11 Labs, I've seen a similar thing before, where it doesn't always reliably end the call. So I assumed it was a common trait, and maybe there was tips or tricks, but I'll try it again, obviously with Retell, and just see. The other bit is, again, I think it might have been fixed by just the settings, but initially the repeating phone numbers too fast, not slow enough. I didn't know, again, how would you format it when it repeats and confirms? We often say, like, is this the best number? Or you confirm a number with the caller, and just getting it to read out that number in a sort of clear, slow, steady format for a phone number. Is there a tip on that?
Yeah, like I said, I've tried these right here, doing it like this, and then also like the spaces. Those are the ones I've tried. And also I've recently just switched from, instead of saying like, hey, I just say like, it's a number that you're calling me from, like your best phone number. Because then that way they can say yes or no. And obviously if they say no, you have to ask them for it and then repeat it back to them. But I would try around these. Also, break. This could also, I'm not sure if you've tried this as well.
I haven't seen that. Yeah. Okay, that's good.
So those documents here, I'll paste this link in the chat again, because I think it's probably hidden by now. So check it out, because that's 11 Labs. Obviously, if you're using Play HT, that was, you might have to this be, different. But most of the time we're using 11 Labs. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. All right, thanks so much.
Yep, no problem. Let's see.
Sorry. I had just a question. I was trying to create a callback URL for N8N to call back Retell. How would I create a callback URL in Retell?
Callback URL. I'm not sure what you mean.
Because I'm trying to get N8N to get Retell to make a call. There's a workflow in N8N, and I want it to activate Retell to make an outbound call. Okay,
so you want to make an outbound call?
Yeah, but I want it to be activated. I want it to be activated by an action in N8N, and it said that I need create a callback URL.
So you need to go to your API reference, and you need to be using the create phone call. Is this what you're using?
I've created the workflow in N8N, and
you would need to. I'm just going to delete this here for the sake of this. If I wanted to make an outbound call to Retell, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to have my HTTP request. This is going to be a post call. I'm going to copy my URL.
Okay, that's the URL.
Okay. So it's a post, and I'm going to be sending this URL. It's going to be again the API Retell, apiretell.com/v2 create phone call. For the authentication, you can just send headers, and we're also going to send the body. For the headers, we need to send an authorization and then a content type. So we need to put authorization, and then you need to do a bearer here, space, and then your key, whatever key number that is.
Mhm.
And then we're also going to do a content type, which actually I don't even think you need to do, but that's all right. We'll do content type, and we're going to be sending this in application/JSON, and we can paste that in there. And then for the body, the easiest way that I found is here. If you just click using JSON, using JSON, and what you do is when you go to the create a phone call, if you click try, this allows you to build it. So for example, a phone number, right? Just paste it in here. Like, what number are you going to be calling from? Paste that in there. What number are you going to be calling to? That. You're going to paste your agent ID, whatever agent you're going to be using. So let's say I'm going to be using this one. I'm going to paste it in there. Metadata. Sometimes I like using metadata for storing like the contact ID or appointment ID, because you might not necessarily need this as a dynamic variable, but you might want to reference this later. So you can certainly do that. Like I said, I use contact ID. I store that a lot. And then your dynamic variables, what information you're going to be passing. So maybe it's going to be the client name. We might do another dynamic variable for, let's just say, client email. Maybe we're passing that over. And then you can simply fill this out. Right. And let's say I'm going to call me, and I can show you how this literally will work right now. I'll put my phone number in here. Oh, wait, from number. For the from number, I'll just select one of my retail numbers here that I have. I don't know. I'm just select this number. I'll paste that in here, and then I'm going to type my number here. Okay. And then all you got to do is copy this right here.
Yeah.
Literally copy that. And then we're going to go back to N8N. And we can just paste that in there. And then this is now going to go ahead and call me. All I got to do is just pop in my API key, the correct API key. So I'll go to my API keys, and then I'll just copy one, whatever, so it doesn't matter. I'll paste that in here. And when I test this, great, I got an error.
I think you missed a character on the JSON file.
So you can see what the error is. If you click the error down, you can tell you what the error is.
This cannot find agent under API key. What?
There, yeah.
Okay, let's see. That's the first one.
You have to put the same agent ID that you have put in the JSON body.
That's really my agent ID. What is going on here? Okay.
I had this this bug when I was trying to get call information. I don't know how I made it work in the end, but like it seemed like everything was right, and I was told me can't find call, and I give an API key.
That should definitely work, right?
Is this a
I'm sure I can delete that. Oh, because that's why.
You have to put the word bearer in there then.
Yeah, you definitely need the word bearer, and it actually tells you right here. If you go back to this,
okay, I see.
actually, let me try that, because you know what? We can actually diagnose this if this is an error within make or something within here, because you can also just make it from here, directly from here, to number.
So by the way, you find that URL in the make a call, yeah? I'll go to in the documentation.
Yeah, create a call. I'll show you how to get to it right now.
Do you have the word key after bearer, key underscore, or does it just go bearer and then straight into the 7.5?
It's bearer and then space.
Yeah, and then and so where it says key underscore, is that what the key was, or is that?
Yeah, this is what the key was. Exactly. That's interesting. I keep getting this agent's not found under. That's a new one. Oh, that's why. So perfect example. I'm a monkey. I hope you guys saw that.
Yeah, I don't see that.
I'm over here copying the Retell ID where it's the agent ID.
Jesus, that's right.
Christ.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's the issue. There you go.
I was wondering where it says LLM at the beginning.
Yeah, I was like, what is going on here? I was like, this is so literally we're gonna pop that in there. Bam.
Yeah.
There you have it. That's literally all it was. And it's calling me. My phone is over there, but well, now I wanted to stop actually.
Like demo, say.
Can I say something?
Yeah, so it's calling
I
me.
have another question, and it's about.
Sorry, just one moment. Just one moment. I just want to make sure I can just find out where I get those details from. Can you just remind me, please, where I get those details from?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So again, you need to go to documentation. When we click on the documentation, it's going to take us here. You're always going to start here. You need to click on API reference.
Okay.
Here. And then we're going to click on create. It always takes you to the create a phone call. This is what you're using to initiate an outbound call. Okay. Then what we want to do is click on try it, because this is going to build that data for us. So click try it.
Yep.
And this is where you're going to pop in your stuff, right? So here I have my API key. Again, it already has the word bearer for you. So it's already pasting it. Like you literally, all you can do is paste.
Yep.
Then you're going to need the phone number.
Yep, I got
the
that.
two number.
Got that.
The override ID, it says that it's not required. It is required. It won't work without it. I've tried this multiple times. So you always need to have that agent override ID. So again, don't make the mistake that I did. I'm over here copying the Retell ID, agent ID. So we copy that in there, and then we paste that.
Yep.
And then here we have the metadata. Again, you don't have to use metadata. I like to use it to pass contact ID or appointment ID, anything like that. And then you have your dynamic variables.
Will that metadata allow the NAA to recognize the caller? To call if
Yeah,
they
you can
call
use it. Like I use it like, for example, like when I want to book an appointment in GHL, I just store the contact ID in the metadata so that I can just reference it and just book it easier. So yes, you can.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is make it. So you just click on add new property.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, I got that. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. Sven, I think you were asking the question.
Yes, I have a problem with limitations for the dynamic variables when it comes to passing them through via make with my own deployment on my own server to Retell, because I think it's a limit of 5,000 signs or something like that, but the information is much more. So the text is very long, and there's a limitation, I think, or something by Twilio, as far as I know. And I'm not sure if I can do something else to make it more dynamic, like have an API call to change the knowledge in the knowledge base, for example, but just for this call, like in dynamic variable. But there's this limitation of Twilio.
My question was like, why are you storing so much information in a dynamic variable? Like if you're running out of space, like why?
This is all the information of an applicant. So yeah, this is why. It's the information of the company, but I try to make it more dynamic. So there are different companies, there are different applicants, there are different vacancies, I think is the right word. Yeah, so it's very there's so many data, and I need to pass through many data, so it's not possible because there is a limitation when it comes to Twilio. But I'm not sure if it's possible to make something like a dynamic knowledge base and to have an API call, an endpoint to change the knowledge in the knowledge base.
You could have a dynamic knowledge base. That would be something else for sure. That would require a different build. It can certainly be done. My just concern will be is like, one, it seems like you're storing a lot of information, dynamic variables. So I feel like there's a better way to handle the flow of what you're trying to accomplish, because you shouldn't be posting that much information. Also, if you're loading up that much information in a dynamic variable, that means that your prompt is super long, which is going to be adding to latency and all sorts of issues. I feel like there's probably a better way to handle it. You absolutely can create a custom knowledge base and hook it up to that and reference that. I'm not sure if you would be able to, like, I would like to see that prompt or the information that you're trying to send. Like I said, I feel like there's much better ways to handle that. That's my email. If you can like record a brief Loom and like maybe send it over, or just like show me your prompt and like it. Just because, there is going to be limitation on the amount of context and like the characters that you're going to be put in a dynamic variable. But overall, you're putting too much information. That's all. That system is also complicated to maintain if you're loading that much. Like dynamic variable should be for, just send it over, and I would love to take a look at it.
Okay, so you can make an API call to change the knowledge in the knowledge base or the documentary in the knowledge base.
Yeah, you certainly could, because you can make the API call, right? But like you would have to build that out like in something like N8N, where you're receiving the knowledge thing, and then you're going to be making a call or updating whatever, referencing whatever data. That can certainly be done, but my concern with that would be the latency. Also, it's like, how long is that going to take? So it can be done.
Okay, so you can use the knowledge base, not static, but dynamic for each call.
You could, but then why is the knowledge base changing constantly?
Because there are different vacancies, there are different customers.
Different vacancies, different customers. Okay.
And so the knowledge is different.
What do you know? Do you already know who these customers? Like, how do you determine the different customer? Because maybe we could reference them and then load an agent specifically to them.
Yeah, it's also a possibility, but I was looking for something dynamic.
I get what you're saying. It seems like it's a long scenario, and you might need a combination of both. Because, like I said, even if you're loading up that much information in dynamic variable, it's a lot of information to put in a prompt, and it can slow down and the whole performance.
Okay. Oh, the performance not that bad. I think it's all right. I have not so many problems with latency, so it works fine. But but the knowledge is limited. So I was looking for some other possibility, but I think there is no possibility.
You could update the agent instead of the variable.
Yeah, but then you have many different agents, right?
Yeah, and like on the vacancies, right? Like if I was like checking out an apartment, like, is this apartment available? Like that should just be a function call instead of even on a knowledge base. Like just create it in a function call. Like if I was going to check on a property and like I'm calling about 123 Rodale Drive, why can't I just make a function, call a service, and then get the information of that property?
Oh, okay, I see.
Like why even do the whole knowledge base? You didn't need a knowledge base. Just what property are you interested? What are your requirements? Let me go gather that information for you, and then return it back to you.
You need to get this information, and if the information is limited, you cannot pass it through to the dynamic variables, right?
No, but like on here, right? Like if I'm calling, like why couldn't I create a function here that maybe it's check property?
Yeah.
Right. So maybe I'm gonna have my check property function here, and this is gonna go property. I can't spell. This is gonna go to whatever's n8n.com, right? Some API point, And as part of this
Mhm.
property, I want to get, maybe an address, right? Where's the
Mhm.
address, or maybe the city of this property. Maybe I want to get the user's phone number and email, right?
Description.
Right. So I
Maybe
collect this
you have a
information.
very long. Let's say you have a very long description for this property. Isn't there this limit of 5,000 characters?
Yeah, but even in a normal conversation, like even if the description is long, like in a conversation, I'm not going to sit there for like 30 minutes listening to the description of a property, right? Like,
Yeah.
like if
Okay.
I'm calling about a property, like, is it available? Is it not available? If it is available, then I want to know more information about it. What is that information that I want to know?
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. So I need to try and make a function to get all the information I want to know. So it's more dynamic.
Yeah, I would play around with obviously the dynamic variables, but using functions there as well. And even
Yeah.
possibly at the start of the call, if you already know the phone number and you have them in your system, possibly even loading a separate agent there as well.
Okay. So it's a combination.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but there is this limit. You cannot get something more like this limit. You cannot exceed the limit or something like that, or expand.
Yeah, but again, my thing still, like if you're sending that much information, it's a very long conversation and it's a very one-way conversation.
No, it's not the conversation. It's just the information for the conversation. So that AI knows everything exactly.
Okay, but maybe they don't know. Well, yeah, play around with that. I think it could be, again, if you want to send me a video, I put my email there and you can send me a loom. I think it's still optimized. I get what you're saying, that you're loading up this much information. I would say only load the information that's required at that specific point of the conversation instead of trying to load everything up.
Yeah, I try to load everything. So if the customer has some questions, all questions can be answered by this information. But I'm not doing it like to get all the information just for the question the user has in this moment. This is
and that's kind of some of the stuff that we're going to be going over, right? Because as we go along here, there's going to be some cases that we're going to be building for, and some of that's going to be involved knowledge base, and some of it is going to involve getting information from other places. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more like this function calling in this situation to get the information I want, but it's not. Yeah, but I know there is a limitation and cannot cannot do anything about it.
Yeah, send me a video and I'll take a look at it, and we'll see what we can do there to optimize that. So just yeah.
Alex, I kind of try to keep my prompt size below 1,000 tokens. I use this thing I just posted in the chat to measure my prompts so it's below 1,000 tokens, because after that it seems to hallucinate more. My research has showed me, so I just always put my prompts in that to check how many tokens.
And that's a good one. I like that. Yeah, and that's a very good idea there. Yeah, so definitely thank you for sharing that. Let's see, Thomas, you got a question?
Yeah, I do have one. I would like to share the screen and show something that was requested by my client, and I'm sure whether it's possible to do with AI. Can you confirm that you can see this diagram?
Yes, I can.
Right, so it's pretty standard. Yeah, it's pretty standard. Call comes in, right? Then
wait a minute. All I'm seeing is Slack. That's all I can see. Slack.
Oh, sorry. Let me try again. Should be able to see Miro right now.
Yep, there we go.
Right, so up to this point, we have an AI. Call comes in, it's an inbound call, then AI asks how it can help. And then the fourth option is basically when the call is taken by AI, but then we have transfer options. And if the caller expresses that it wants to talk with sales, then we're supposed to redirect them to the sales phone number, which the sales phone number will have the team of the sales, finance, and support. And my customer is asking, is it possible to build an AI function that takes over when agents are busy or not available. But up to this point, when the transfer happens, and I assume it will happen via dynamic routing, for instance, via this transfer. So when I transfer to the sales, up to this point, I basically don't have access to the call anymore, right? Because this call icon, this phone number, it's a separate phone number.
You might have to do a warm transfer. If you go back to what you were showing me on Retell, right now you're passing that over, right? So you pass over in a call transfer, it's passed over, that's it, it's done for. You lost it as soon as it's gone, right?
Yeah.
If you do a warm transfer, you could say, on a warm transfer, what happens is if the agent doesn't pick up, the conversation will still continue. So you could prompt it where it says, hey, if the transfer was unsuccessful, then do this, or transfer it over to this number and do another transfer call. So you could technically do multiple ones, but you would want to use a warm transfer. In the warm transfer, like I said, you can do that prompt there. Now, all that would happen is when the person picks up, right, the AI might say, hey, I have Alex on the line. He's interested in this, that, and the other. I'm going to leave you both to it. And then that's it.
Can I tell something like if the sales people didn't answer for like, I don't know, 2 minutes?
No, the handoff message is what the AI is going to tell to the person that picks up the phone.
Okay, that's basically the brief.
Yeah, so let's just click save for the sake of this, really quick. Just can you click save? Let's just pretend that step 3. Let's say step 3 in your prompt is transfer the call. I'm making this up, right? No, if you go back to your prompt, or step 5. Let's just say step 5 in the tasks is transfer call, right? You could add below that to say, hey, if the call was not transferred successfully, then do this, which could be another transfer call. Does that make sense?
Okay. So basically, if the sales team didn't answer for some time.
Yeah, and because what you're gonna do is like step number 5 might be like transfer the call, right? Like there's a I'm not even sure where you're activating it in this prompt because I don't even see you calling the function. But somewhere in this task, you're gonna call the function transfer call. On here, you have it as a dynamic routing, so you have if the user wants to reach support or sales. But I would probably put that in the prompt.
Yeah. Okay. So that basically means that down here I have to define the rule for this phone number. If no one answers, just hang up the call after 2 minutes, and then from there, the Retell has an indication that the call wasn't successful, and from there forward on, I can build the prompt to handle such cases.
Yeah, because for example, I'll give you my use case. If they don't answer, then we want to schedule a callback. So if they don't answer from the warm transfer, then we want to say, you know what, our agent was not. I'm sorry we couldn't get to you right now, but we'd like to schedule a callback. Then we can schedule a callback. So with warm transfer, there's still things that you can do afterwards. So I would use that.
Lovely. Thank you very much. I will test this one.
Yep, no problem.
Where would you put the prompt for that? Like in the main prompt, or like in the handoff prompt, or in the transfer prompt?
Which prompt? Like what part of the prompt?
Like for example, like just the case we had, like if the transfer wasn't successful, schedule a callback.
I would put it. Let me see. Can you guys see my screen again? So like, let's just say like right here. Let's just say like step 8, just to make this simple, right? Like step 8 is like transfer call over to sales department. Right, something like, okay, I can't spell department, whatever's, something like that. And then I could just put below this, and I'm using Markdown, so I'm like adding 2 spaces and a dash to signify that bullet point goes below step number 8, like it's part of it. And we're gonna be going over prompting, by the way. So here I would say, something like, if the call wasn't transferred successfully, like if the call wasn't transferred, then do whatever, then transfer it over to whatever it may be. But this is where I would put it. Okay. Yeah, the other one is just for the handoff. So this is just for the handoff. It's what it's going to tell the agent, whoever picks up the phone.
Yeah, because
cool.
also there's a prompt next to the handoff message, so I was wondering.
Yeah, the prompt, because you can do a static message. So you could say if you have.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Take a couple more questions and we'll wrap it up here. Bistro, you got a question?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes, I can.
Yeah. I have a quick question. So I have a knowledge base. What that knowledge base is like. It's very hard to retrieve the data. Like in every node, I'm using a conversation flow. And how to, first question is like how to enforce the conversational flow to retrieve the data from knowledge base before the start of that node. Is there a way to enforce it?
A way to enforce the knowledge. It should be referencing it at all times. I'll find out if there's another like more specific way, but from my understanding, it does it at all times. So it should be referencing it like always. How do you have your data, your knowledge base formatted? Like how
It's a table format, it's kind of a catalog, products catalog, so product name and the details like that. When you say like it is always refer it's specifying in the knowledge base in your options, and that should be good enough, or do we need to explicitly mention that retrieve the data from the knowledge base? I specified like that in my prompt, but still did not work. And these days, I'm also observing in the test LLM that earlier it used to log that whenever the data retrieves from the knowledge base, it has a specific log saying that data retrieved from knowledge base. But nowadays, I'm not even seeing that in the chat LLM. So is there anything that known issue, or it is all by default? Should I consider that every time it refers from a KB by default?
It should always be referencing it. So you shouldn't even have to tell it, because it should always be referencing. Anytime a question comes in, it should always be referencing the knowledge base. So you don't have to. I would also look into the way you have the data formatted. I can show you how I format my data for my knowledge base, and I use Markdown, and I do this just to be to make sure that everything is working how it should. And I use Markdown, and I just hopefully can see. So this is, for example, insurance information, and I break everything down. So you can see, again, we have Markdown. It's very clear what it is. I have the insurance providers, and then I have a table here with the different providers. It's all in Markdown. So I know you mentioned table. Would be curious to see how, like, what you mean by like how it's like in a table, like in an Excel sheet, or
exactly. It's kind of it's I put in a PDF, but it is I can say 3x4, 4 columns, and it has some 10 or 20 rows in it. So it's all, everything is in one table. That's it. So that's how I categorize. Do you suggest not to like that, or is there any do we have a certain pattern that I need to follow?
Like I said, I split it. I always split my knowledge base, and I always use Markdown. I've tried things like PDFs and other things. I just find that for me, Markdown has worked the best, and it has been the most reliable. I also find that it's easier for the LLM. And like I said, even in my knowledge base, this is another one, right? So this is for services offered. I give it tags, and then I break them down, again, just using Markdown. Just try to keep it pretty simple. And even in my other, let me see, goddamn, I got so many screens. I'll show you my knowledge base. I break down like the color services, where sometimes you can see I have multiple services, salon info, policies. So I try to break down everything as much as possible so that it's easier for the knowledge to be referenced.
Okay. And when do you suggest is there going with a RAG-based vector DB? So that's also one option that, definitely I'll try this Markdown, but I'm trying to see is there any other alternatives that I can try it out to retrieve the data effectively, without losing much.
So you want to use your own knowledge base? Is that?
Yeah.
You could. I'll get into some info on that. A few people have asked that, but you certainly can use your own knowledge base. If you want to use Pinecone, right? If you want to manage that and use Pinecone or whatever else you want to use, you can certainly do that.
That definitely should go through some backend, N8N or something, right? Then fetch it. So that adds up some sort of latency on it. For
Yeah,
every
exactly.
questions, that's a problem.
So then you would have to figure out how to handle that, right? Because that is going to have some latency. So you could certainly use something like N8N. Obviously, you can use something like Thrive. There's VoiceFlow. There's many ones that you can use. I don't know how to spell Thrive. There's many that you can use, but yeah, you will have to play around with that because it will add some latency to it. And yeah.
Okay. Sure. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. All right, guys. Any other last questions, concerns here before we hop off here? No.
Yeah, just thanks, Alex. So just in general, regarding knowledge bases, what's the best practices? Like when would I use a knowledge base or store information on a knowledge base, and when should I store it like on the system prompt?
If it's so, I think it depends. Like, for example, here for this podiatry one or for any medical, most of the information is going to be stored in the knowledge base, because there's just so much for it to load up in the prompt. Like in the prompt, I'm only going to load up like context and what's like important to the immediate conversation. Everything else I'm going to load up in the knowledge base.
Got it. So for example, like in the system prompt, I guess like the one that you made like a couple of weeks back with the hair salon or whatever, inbound calls, you basically just put there like, this is your function, this is how the call flow is gonna go, and these are your limitations. But then like how much is like prices, or like something that's business specific when you get down to it, that's not relevant to like handling the call and things like that, that would go in the knowledge base, is what I'm understanding.
Yeah, exactly. I would put that in the knowledge base. Now, also, I might not use a knowledge base if it's like, if the agent is going to serve like a single purpose, or like it's going to be very specific to a certain thing. It might not be a need for like an external knowledge base. And at that point, I might simply put it here. But for the most part, for most agents, I just typically load up the context and what's important for this particular conversation. So here you can see I'm using some dynamic variables, and then I'm loading up this context, but everything else is going to be handled through the knowledge base. I do have some like FAQs right here, answering common questions. And like one of the most common questions we get is like location about address. So we're addressing it here. And this agent it's literally the whole purpose of this agent is just to call the patient and verify that they're coming through. That's it. So in this example, you might not even need to use a knowledge base because like the prompt is not that long. You can probably put it here, most common questions, if you wanted to. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. I'm not even sure if I'm answering that correctly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like I guess in my example, like in my case, where I see that sometimes the voice agent tries to get creative, and sometimes I tend to reiterate what the call flow is going to be. So for example, like I want a very strict kind of call flow, and sometimes I see that the agent deviates from that. So the way that I handle it is I have like literally like 5 to 6 examples of call flow. So I would say like customer would say this, and then the agent will say that, and then just to like really drill down into the agent how the call flow is going to go, so that it doesn't go off into a tangent or whatever. And that makes the system prompt about 7 pages, like in Google Doc. So I don't know if like maybe I'm like overreaching, and that adds a little bit to like the latency.
Yes, and look, you can go down a whole rabbit hole down that, because I've done that plenty of times. Yeah, let me see here.
Won't the temperature control how creative the AI agent gets? Can't you turn down the temperature? Wouldn't that help?
Yeah, that's a good one. I believe I left it at default, but I'm not really sure. I'd need to check.
You could. I just think sometimes handling way too much. You might need to split it into. I was trying to find it. I don't know where it's at. Sometimes you might split it up into too much. Sometimes you have to have multiple agents. Oh, sorry, this is a different one. Jesus, where am I?
Or even use a multi-prompt instead of a single prompt, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes, yeah, exactly. sorry, I was gonna say I've gone down that road where like basically you try to map everything out and like you try to handle every single scenario. It can be overwhelming a lot of times. And yeah, we're gonna go through some of that here with this receptionist. You'll see, and how we'll handle some of those cases there as well, some defaults.
Awesome. Well, will that be in another session, like next week or something?
Yeah, so tomorrow we're going to be doing this other one. It's going to be Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. So tomorrow we're going to start building out the conversational flow, and we're going to basically translate what we built today with Mia here into a prompt. So we're going to be building out the prompt, the context or personality, and we'll probably build out a custom function for transferring a call. So we're going to start doing this tomorrow. That's tomorrow.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, can't wait. Thanks, man.
So tomorrow we'll go over the conversational flow. This, you guys should have access to this. This is in the Notion document. Someone asked me regarding prompts, any useful sources for prompts. So for the prompts, yes, same time tomorrow. I always like to look at competitors and what other people are doing. So I'll give you some example. I like to, for example, I'll go to BAPI, I'll see their documents, and then I'll kind of see how they typically have like a guide on prompting. So I'll go through that and I'll kind of get an idea of what they're doing and how they're prompting it. They typically have like prompting guides, right? So here's the prompting guide. I'll go through them. I'll look at other competitors, Land AI. They also have one. You have Hume, right? So Hume does it. I go through those as well to get ideas for prompts and to see how other people prompt them. There's also this GitHub repository of awesome voice prompts that I sometimes reference and get ideas from and see how other people are programming them. So these are some resources there.
What is
Hopefully
that? Have you got that GitHub link? Could you post that in the chat, please?
Yeah, of course. So, and I will also post this on the Notion document. And then something else that definitely don't want to get you guys distracted is trying prompts written in XML, which Hume does that a lot. Hume right here. You'll notice that a lot of the prompts are written in XML. I have found this that when you do write them like this, it tends to stick to the structure a lot more, but they can also get very long. So that's something else. But yeah, that's the GitHub repository. Like I said, I'll also include this in the Notion document. And yeah, where can we find the Notion? I'll paste it. It should be there.
Thanks, Alex.
Yep, no problem. Cool. Any other questions, guys? If not, I'm going to let you guys go.
I have
Let me paste this Notion document really quick. Sorry, let me paste that Notion doc. That way you guys have access to them. And then, yeah, tomorrow we will meet at the same time. And tomorrow we're going to start building out the conversational flow and then translating what we built today with Mia into a whole prompt. So that's a Notion document, guys. So everything is going to be there.
I have a question when it comes to the multi-prompting.
When it comes to what, I'm sorry?
When it comes to the multi-prompt, you have the possibility to make a single prompt and you have the possibility to make multi-prompts. Is it possible to make something like RAG, retrieval augmented generation, so to have different metadata to the knowledge base? Or to use different metadata for the knowledge base to get the right knowledge for the purpose you're addressing in this moment?
So you want to add metadata to the knowledge base? Is that?
Yeah.
Like this? Like tags? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like tags or something else. I mean, it's like dynamic.
So like, for example, this is how I structure the prompt, my knowledge base specifically for stuff like that. Like I'm providing it with tags and I'll be honest with you, right? I don't have any hard facts that the tags actually make a difference. I know that from my testing that in Markdown, it makes a difference and it's easier for it to pick up. I don't have any data whether tags actually make a difference, but I do include them for that reason. I want it to be as easy as possible for the assistant to find what it is.
Yeah.
So like I do include tags. I have tags on this one here too. Right, this is insurance provider, so I want to list that, and I just want to make it easy for it to reference.
Okay, but I guess this is not programmatic, right? This is just inside the text in the knowledge base, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just inside a knowledge base. Yeah.
It's not like Pinecone where I have the possibility to make different metadata.
Yeah, no, for that you would have to, pretty much use your own Pinecone installation. You could connect your own knowledge base, but you would have to set all that up yourself.
Yeah, but you have a problem with the latency.
Yeah, so exactly.
Okay, so this is not possible at the moment.
Yeah, it's not possible, like from our end, and I can check the API endpoint because I don't want to give you any wrong info there. Because we can upload knowledge base through there, so maybe through the API point. I'll admit that I haven't fully looked at it, so we can quickly check.
Yeah.
So here we have the create knowledge base, and in terms of metadata, so you were mentioning about also their dynamic, so you could use auto refresh there, right, to pull information every 12 hours if you wanted to do that there.
Okay, but it's not for every call. Every 12 hours. Yeah, so it's not the same, but okay.
Yeah, I don't see anything on metadata, unfortunately, there.
Yeah, okay. Then I guess this is not possible with the knowledge base.
Yeah, but please send. I'm very curious. Please do send me that video because I do want to see how your agent looks. I'm curious about this use case.
Yeah, I can send you like, what do you need to know? The ID?
Yeah, just send me like a loom, like
agent,
a loom
maybe?
video, like of going through it and like how it works. Because I'm very curious on it. I feel like there's a lot of optimizations that could be done. So just send me a video on that.
Okay.
Cool. All right, guys. So if there's nothing else,
Yeah,
can you please share the markdown
Can you
template?
send me the markdown template or anything like if you want? Where can I get the resource or anything like that?
Yeah. So I'll upload them here as well for now.
Okay, perfect.
You could also just ask ChatGPT to turn your prompt into Markdown. You could just paste it and say, convert this to a Markdown text. It will do it easy.
Yep. Yeah, you can do that exactly. But I'll upload those ones that I have, so you guys can kind of reference that, and you can see how those just look. So I'll put a couple of them on here. That way you guys have access to that. Okay, so there you go. They're in Notion there.
Sorry, where can we find recordings?
Recordings are in the YouTube channel, and they're also posted on Discord, and they're also on this file here, on this Notion document. When you click on them, you can see all the previous workshops that we've done so far. Same thing with any templates.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So there you go. I uploaded those 3, so that should give you just a good idea of how that works. And again, all the workshops are going to be here. You can watch the recording of the last one. Any templates will be here. All the information will be there for any workshops. And you guys can tell I like cats because I'm constantly using cat images. So there's that. Cool.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Dropping knowledge, dropping bombs.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Thank you guys for joining me. So I appreciate you guys joining here. Like I said, we will be live tomorrow, and tomorrow we're going to start building this out. So we're going to be going through the whole dialogue there, through the whole conversation of flow. We'll start building it out. We'll start creating our prompt, and we'll create our first custom function our first function to transfer the call. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. Okay. So same time.
Thanks. To tomorrow.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. See you guys tomorrow.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.